I was betrayed by my cousin, Lu Yunfei, who sold me to a brothel where I was tortured for 3 days, losing all my dignity. My father and elder brother looked at my battered body in anguish, promising to bring me justice. My fiancée, Xinyu, comforted me, saying that since our families were bound by ties of loyalty, our engagement would remain unchanged. Yet not long after, news came that Lu Yunfei had used my dowry to marry in my place. I couldn't believe it and hurried over to confront them, only to stumble upon father, brother, my fiancé, and Lu Yunfei frolicking naked together in the bath. They all looked at her with pity in their eyes. She has already repented. Each night, she offers herself to us to atone for her sins. She has suffered greatly. Can you not be magnanimous and let this go? I refused to accept it. I wanted to beat the drums to proclaim my innocence, but the 4 of them joined forces to make me drink poisoned wine, then discarded my body in the wilderness. Those 4 went on to live a blissful life together. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day I was thrown into the brothel. Cousin sister, come out for a walk with me. Feeling a tug on my sleeve, I snapped my eyes open. When I saw the woman before me, I instinctively stepped back in shock. Lu Yunfei noticed my odd reaction and looked up. Cousin sister, what's the matter? Cousin, you have nothing to do today anyway. Come out for a stroll with me. Her face seemed gentle and concerned, but deep in her eyes flickered ceaseless calculation. I lowered my gaze to my clothes, then looked at Lu Yunfei's attire, and quickly understood. It seemed I had been reborn, returned to the very day Lu Yunfei sold me to the brothel. In my past life, she had used the excuse of going out together to trick me out of the manor, and the moment my back was turned, she sold me off. I endured 3 days of torment before the magistrate retrieved me. It was my maid, Lian Xiao, who had reported it to the authorities. My father and brother were heartbroken and swore to make things right. My fiancé even said he bore no resentment and that the engagement would stand. But I kept waiting and waiting, only to learn that Lu Yunfei had taken my dowry to marry in my stead. I couldn't believe it and rushed to question them, only to see them naked together in the bath. When I caught them, they showed no shame. Instead, they blamed me. Ji Yuan, we have already disciplined her for you. What more do you want? I wanted to cry out my grievance to the world, but the 4 of them forced poisoned wine down my throat and dumped me in the wilderness. And then, they occupied my Ji household and lived as one woman with 3 husbands, happily ever after. Unexpectedly, the heavens had eyes. I was reborn again. When Lu Yunfei reached out to grab my sleeve again, I turned cold, forcefully shoving her away. She hadn't anticipated this and fell hard to the ground, gasping in pain with tears welling up. Cousin sister, why did you push me? Oh, my hand slipped. I stared coldly at her, this time not missing the hatred that flashed in her eyes. In my previous life, I had never guarded against Lu Yunfei. I never imagined she would be so vicious as to sell me to a brothel. This time, no matter what, I would never let her succeed. I turned to my maid standing beside me. Lian Xiao, I feel unwell. See Cousin Yunfei out. When Lu Yunfei realized I wouldn't leave the manor, she scrambled up in panic. Cousin sister, didn't you agree to go out with me just now? Why have you changed your mind? I looked coldly back at her. When did I ever agree? If you're so eager, why not invite my brother to accompany you? After all, the 2 of you are so very close. Lu Yunfei didn't pick up on the sarcasm in my voice. She continued to explain, trying to coax me out. Cousin Ji, he is a man. It wouldn't be proper for him to accompany a woman to the market. Of course, you should come with me. I lost my patience and shoved her away with one palm. Are you done pestering me? If you want to go out so badly, go yourself. If you're worried about safety, I'll send some servants with you. Lian Xiao, take Lu Yunfei out. She's giving me a headache. Today, I won't be seeing anyone. Lian Xiao obediently stepped forward to block her. Miss Lu, please see yourself out. Lu Yunfei stomped her foot in frustration before reluctantly leaving. Lian Xiao hurried over to support me back to the bed. My lady, is your head unwell? Should I massage it for you? That cousin Lu is truly too much. She always goes out alone. Why today of all days must she insist on dragging you along? I let out a cold laugh. Of course she's trying to lure me out and sell me to the brothel again. If I hadn't refused her today, she would have succeeded. I pursed my lips, instructing Lian Xiao that from now on, Whenever Lu Yunfei came, she was to be blocked at the door. But this was only a temporary measure. I couldn't hide from her forever. Besides, she wasn't the only one. There was also Xinyu, the fiancé who betrayed me, and even my father and brother, who in my past life had already chosen to stand by her side. I planned to annul the engagement to Xinyu. But this marriage agreement had been arranged by my late mother and the Xin family. Parents' orders were not so easily defied. And I couldn't just go to the Shun family accusing Xinyu and Lu Yunfei of adultery. I had no proof. Unless, as I was deep in thought, Lian Xiao came running in. "My lady, young Master Shen has come to see you." "I won't see him." No sooner had the words left my mouth than Xunyu stepped directly inside. I frowned slightly, feeling a trace of displeasure. "Young Master Shen, I still have matters to attend to today. I must trouble you to take your leave." Xinyu let out a careless smile, leisurely waving his folding fan as he walked over and sat down at the table. "Ji Yuan, what's this about? Has someone upset you? No matter how angry you are, must you refuse to see even me? If you're in such a foul mood, why don't we go out for a stroll? I heard Zui Shao Tavern has just introduced a new dessert. Shall we go and try it together?" I had just opened my mouth to decline when Lu Yunfei suddenly came running in, acting as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Cousin sister, your place is so lively today." So brother Yu is here too. No wonder you finally agreed to see someone." "Brother Yu, where are you and cousin sister planning to go?" Xinyu smiled lightly and replied, "I was going to invite Ji Yuan to try the new pastries at Zui Shao Tavern. Would you care to join us?" Lu Yunfei nodded eagerly. Yes, of course I must come along. Cousin sister, this time it's brother Yu personally inviting you. You can't refuse again." Their exchange only confirmed the suspicion that had been growing in my heart. I had merely guessed that Lu Yunfei might have colluded with Xunyu from the start. It turned out that when I was sold to the brothel, Xunyu had already known everything. Otherwise, how could he have remained so calm and unruffled? Any man, seeing his betrothed humiliated and tortured for 3 days, would surely have harbored some indignation. Even my father and brother. So, they too had already been in league with Lu Yunfei. After all, when I vanished for 3 days, the only one who reported to the authorities was Lian Xiao. My own family showed no concern for my disappearance. I feared they never intended for me to come back at all. How laughable that in my past life, after all that had happened, I never had the clarity to see the truth. I was so foolish as to think I could rely on them. Thinking back to when I was finally brought back to the Ji estate, my father and brother used the excuse that I needed bed rest to make me hand over the household accounts and keys. It must have all been part of their plan. Now, hearing Xunyu's invitation again, I was certain they intended to send me back to that brothel. Utterly revolting. If they loved each other so much, they could have simply confessed and dissolved the engagement. But instead, for the sake of their selfish desires, they had to ruin an innocent person. I let out a cold laugh, reached straight for the steaming cup of tea Xinyu had just poured, and flung it onto Lu Yunfei. Startled, Lu Yunfei shrieked and leapt straight into Xunyu's arms. Xinyu instinctively caught her. "Ji Yuan, what are you doing? Yunfei, are you hurt?" I smiled faintly, then delivered a crisp slap across Lu Yunfei's face. "Men and women ought to observe propriety, Lu Yunfei. This is my future husband. The two of you clutching each other so intimately, am I supposed to pretend I see nothing? Or perhaps, you've long since been sneaking around behind my back." A flicker of panic crossed Xinyu's face as he hastily pushed Lu Yunfei away. "Ji Yuan, don't speak nonsense. This concerns both my reputation and Yunfei's." Lu Yunfei staggered back several steps, a glint of resentment flashing in her eyes. "Cousin sister, how could you say such things about me? It was you who poured tea all over me. Brother Yu was only worried I'd been burned. How could you think so ill of me?" Xinyu seized the chance to scold me. "That's right, Ji Yuan. Shouldn't you apologize to Yunfei? Besides, she's just a young girl. Forgetting to keep her distance from men is understandable. Must you overreact like this?" I let out a mirthless laugh and looked at Xinyu. "A young girl? You mean the so-called young girl who has already come of age, yet clings to my household refusing to marry? Whether she's still chaste is highly questionable. Perhaps she has already shared a man's bed, who can say?" Xinyu froze, his eyes darting away, unable to meet my gaze. Even his voice turned hesitant. This is a matter for your Ji family. It has nothing to do with me. If you don't want to go out, then fine, I'll take my leave. Wait. I called him back and looked at Lian Xiao. Lian Xiao, inform the household that in future, when young Master Shin visits, he must present a calling card. If I agree, he may enter. Young Master Shun, though we are engaged, you barging into my chambers unannounced will only tarnish my reputation. I am not some peasant girl without decorum. Certain proprieties must be maintained. Surely you can understand this. Shin Yu pressed his lips together, shot Lu Yunfei a sidelong glance, then left without another word. I turned my cold gaze to Lu Yunfei, who still stood there in stunned disbelief. I laughed softly. What's wrong? Did you think your precious brother you would stand up for you? After all, I grew up alongside Shin Yu. Do you think I don't know what kind of man he is? He has many fine qualities, but he is weak. He has never dared to shoulder responsibility. Faced with a scene like this, his first instinct will always be to flee. Besides, his own conscience is already burdened with guilt. Lu Yunfei bit her lower lip, no longer bothering to pretend. She glared at me viciously and hissed. Ji Yuan, just you wait. The humiliation you've given me today, I swear I'll repay you 100-fold. Humiliation. Compared to the torment and disgrace Lu Yunfei brought upon me in my past life, all I'd done was slap her once. How could that even be called humiliation? I turned to Lian Xiao and signaled her to see Lu Yunfei out. From now on, no one enters this estate without permission. This is the Ji residence. If anyone forgets their place, then they need not remain here at all. Lu Yunfei gave me one last hateful glare before storming out in fury. I let out a sigh, feeling somewhat weary. Though venting my anger had brought momentary satisfaction, it still hadn't resolved the problem at its root. The ones I had to guard against were not merely outsiders like Lu Yunfei and Shen Yu, but also my own father and elder brother. Just one day later, father and brother came together to my courtyard, and behind them trailed Lu Yunfei. When Ji saw me emerge, he immediately stepped in front of Lu Yunfei and barked, Ji Yuan, get over here and kneel to apologize to Yunfei. You're her elder cousin. How could you bully her like that? If word of this spreads, what will people think of the Ji household? Get over here now. Father stood to the side, echoing his rebuke. Ji Yuan, no matter what, Yunfei is still your cousin. How could you mistreat her so shamefully? If Ji hadn't seen the burn on her body yesterday, I wouldn't have even known what you'd done. Hurry and apologize to Yunfei. Both of them were brimming with righteous fury, as though I had committed some grave transgression that would disgrace the Ji name if I didn't bow my head. I narrowed my eyes at Ji. A burn? Where exactly? How curious, I never saw any burn. Ji failed to hear the implication in my voice. He even vowed solemnly. Yesterday you poured scalding tea right onto Yunfei's body. Her waist was burned. Her waist. I raised an eyebrow in mock surprise. Brother, you're a grown man. How is it you were able to see her waist? Ji stiffened, unable to utter a word. He turned to father as though hoping for rescue. Father gave a small cough and tried to open his mouth, but I cut him off coldly. Perhaps father has forgotten. When grandfather left the capital, he entrusted this household entirely to me. This is the Ji residence, not your Lin residence. Whatever I do here is none of your concern. My words clearly enraged Lin Jun. He strode up to me and slapped me hard across the face. Insolence. Ji Yuan, what did your mother teach you? Did she ever teach you to defy your own father? I am your father. Ji is your elder brother. Must you ignore our words? You think managing the household for a few years makes you fully fledged? That you can defy me? Enough. A disobedient daughter like you. What right have you to oversee the estate? Besides, you are an unmarried girl. What propriety is there in you managing the household affairs? Hand over the account books and keys at once. I will appoint someone reliable to take charge. For now, give them to your cousin. I glanced at Lu Yunfei behind them. Her eyes gleamed with triumph, as though she were reminding me that her words yesterday had borne fruit. I gave a short, scornful laugh. And if I refuse? Lin Jun's face darkened. He slapped me again, harder than before. Men, lock her up. Ji Yuan, I'll give you 5 days to consider. If you agree, all can be settled peacefully. If not, humph, I will teach you a proper lesson. Don't forget, I am your father. I looked at the servants behind him, who hesitated in place. I inclined my head slightly. Only then did they dare step past him toward me. Miss, I said nothing further, turning and walking calmly back inside. This was the outcome I desired anyway. Rather than let them keep coming to pick fights every few days, I'd rather push them to reveal their hand all at once. Not long after I'd finished giving Lin Xiao instructions, Lu Yunfei came by alone. She no longer bothered with any pretense of innocence, strolling boldly into my room. "Cousin sister," she sneered, "what is there for you to be so proud of? Look at you. Yesterday you slapped me once, and today your own father has slapped you twice. See, you're truly pathetic. Your own father and brother won't stand by you. They only protect me." As she spoke, she opened my jewelry box and gazed covetously at the ornaments inside. "Ji Yuan, what I despise most is that lofty air of yours. Shall I tell you something? That day I'd planned to lure you out of the manor and toss you into the brothel, so you'd be deflowered and know what it feels like to serve a man. Oh, and by the way, your father and brother had already agreed to it. Too bad you wouldn't take the bait. So we had to resort to more forceful measures." I gave a soft, indifferent laugh. She thought I would crumble if she could shatter my pride, so she could savor her own twisted triumph. In my past life, perhaps I would have, but I was no longer that naive girl. I had already died once. "And that's all you have, Lu Yunfei." She stared, stunned that I remained so unruffled. Her expression darkened. "Ji Yuan, what is that look on your face? Shouldn't you be heartbroken and humiliated?" I smiled faintly and asked in return. "Heartbroken over what? Humiliated by what?" "Humiliated that you have to serve 3 men all by yourself. Lu Yunfei, surely it's not just my father and brother you've entangled yourself with. Xinyu as well, isn't that right?" Lu Yunfei paled, stumbling back in alarm. You, what do you know?" I smiled coldly and pushed her straight out the door. "What I know? Depends on what you want me to know." Perhaps she took my words to heart, because the very next day, she dragged Xinyu into my courtyard. I was reading when I heard Xinyu's hesitant voice outside. Not loud, but not quite whispering either. "Yunfei, are you certain you want to do this here?" "But Ji Yuan." A moment later, Lu Yunfei's soft, coquettish tone drifted through the window. "What? Brother you, are you afraid? Don't worry, she can't hear us. And even if she does, so what? What can she possibly do? Besides, isn't it thrilling? Right here in your betrothed's courtyard, to take me. Ah, you're hurting me." Soon after, the sound of their moans rose unabashedly. Lu Yunfei, even letting her cries grow louder, deliberately ensuring I would hear every note. I felt nothing but disgust. In that moment, the memory of stumbling upon all 4 of them entwined together in my past life resurfaced, and my chest tightened with revulsion. How pitiful. Even if I told anyone of this, no one would believe it. After all, not even the most debauched courtesans in the brothels could shamelessly do what Lu Yunfei did. And most of those women had at least been forced into that life. I lowered my gaze and set the book aside. Fortunately, I had already prepared for this. Since they took such shameless delight in their debauchery, then I would ensure more eyes witnessed it. Make it so scandalous that none of them would ever lift their heads again. Before Lin Jun's 5-day deadline had even expired, an imperial summons arrived. Princess Yi had ordered me to the palace. This was an edict from within the court itself. Lin Jun naturally didn't dare obstruct me. He could only stand there helplessly as I walked out. Beside him, Lu Yunfei ground her teeth in resentment. I smiled faintly and instructed Lin Xiao to bring out the luggage I had packed in advance. Lin Jun seemed to think of something and called out to me. "Ji Yuan, who knows if you'll be returning tonight? While you're away, hand over the household accounts and keys to Yunfei." "Ji," he quickly echoed him. "That's right. Hand them over. If you're not in the estate and something happens, who will manage it? Give Yunfei the authority." Lu Yunfei's face lit up, openly delighted as she stepped forward to receive them. I only smiled and looked calmly at the 3 of them. "I'm only going to the palace to visit a friend, not to die?" If that's so, when grandfather departed for the frontier, he entrusted everything in this estate to me. Naturally, any matters can wait until my return. Or, does cousin Yunfei simply cannot wait any longer to be the mistress of the Ji household? In that case, perhaps I should mention it to the princess. Ask her to petition His Majesty to have cousin Yunfei married off to my elder brother. What do you think? Lu Yunfei clearly hadn't anticipated this move. She instinctively shook her head. "No, Ji," he frowned, displeasure flashing across his face. It seemed the four of them hadn't even agreed among themselves on who should claim what. Lin Jun's face darkened. His voice turned harsh. Ji Yuan, have you forgotten who I am? I am your father. I lifted my eyes coldly. So what? You may be my father, but you are still only a live-in son-in-law. And Lu Yunfei is the daughter of your deceased sister. She has no rightful claim over the Ji household. In fact, even you are an outsider here. I paused deliberately, casting a glance around. A crowd had already gathered to watch the commotion. I raised my voice so everyone could hear. Since father wants to give control of the entire Ji estate to Lu Yunfei, an outsider, shouldn't you at least give her a proper title? What is it to be? Will she become my brother's wife? Or are you intending to take her as a new concubine yourself? Gasps and murmurs rippled through the onlookers. Lin Jun's face flushed bright red, his rage barely contained. You dare spout such nonsense. He lunged forward as if to strike me again, but the palace guard stepped between us, shoving him to the ground. How pitiful he looked. I laughed softly and feigned an apologetic expression. My apologies, father. Brother, I must hurry to the palace. This guard was personally assigned by the princess to ensure I arrive safely and suffer no harm. Father, you knew there were tigers on the mountain, yet you insisted on walking right into their jaws. Brother, what are you standing there for? Hurry and help father up. All your life as a pampered young master, and you still don't know how to respect your elders. I cast Jihe a cold, mocking look and added, oh, and out my earlier suggestion, you all should discuss it carefully. Decide what you plan to do with cousin Lu Yunfei. I said nothing more and turned to step into the carriage. Just as I expected, they would surely use this chance to ransack my courtyard. Unfortunately for them, I had already been gradually moving anything of value out of the estate. Even the account books they so coveted were safely tucked away in my luggage. I had deliberately provoked them to buy time to spirit everything out. This place was no longer safe. Lu Yunfei had already used her charms to entice others. I could not guarantee she wouldn't seduce the household servants as well. Many of the staff were loyal, but there were always those with ulterior motives. Otherwise, in my past life, the poisoned wine that was mixed into my meals would never have reached my table. I had no time to ferret out those traitors now. Dealing with Lu Yunfei and the other three was more pressing. Once I reached the palace, I handed Lin Xiao the letter I had prepared and instructed her to deliver it. I had grown up with Princess Wei, and we were close as sisters. If I wanted to expose everything, I could not do it alone. And given my ties to these people, it would be difficult for me to take direct action. I could only rely on Wei. I also recalled that in my past life, around this time, there had been a banquet in the palace, and I had been invited. But I had just been rescued, and was so consumed by shame and sorrow that I hadn't dared show my face. This time, I would seize the opportunity to stage a fitting spectacle for them. When I arrived, I told Wei everything that had transpired. She didn't hesitate to lend her support. I told you before, she sighed, that Lu Yunfei was never the gentle soul she pretended to be. I've seen her true nature with my own eyes. Yet you still wouldn't believe me. I gave a rueful smile and couldn't argue. Time and again, Wei had warned me to be careful of Lu Yunfei. But I had pitied her for being orphaned, remembering how I had also lost my mother young, and felt a kinship with her. I treated her with nothing but affection, as if she were my own sister. Who could have imagined she would repay my kindness with such cruelty? That betrayal wounded me more deeply than her sharing a bed with my father, brother, and fiancé combined. Wei sighed again, patting my shoulder gently. All right, get changed. Come see my father with me later. You'll be staying in the palace for now. We can talk more tonight. I smiled and readily agreed. This was exactly what I had hoped she would suggest. In a few days, the palace banquet would begin. Until then, it was safer for me to remain here. If I returned to the Ji estate, no doubt they would find a chance to strike again. And after how I had humiliated Lin Jun in front of the entire street, he must now hate me to the bone. How pitiful that although my grandfather had been a great general, I hadn't learned a shred of martial skill. Mother had always believed that with Jihe as my elder brother, he could protect me well enough. Who would have thought Jihe would prove the most treacherous of all, every bit as vile as his father? I sighed, feeling a trace of helplessness. Jihe was the most troublesome of them. Lu Yunfei and Xin Yu were outsiders. I could deal with them without mercy. Lin Jun, too, a live-in son-in-law, His filth warranted nothing but expulsion. But Jihe, he bore the Ji name. Not only my elder brother, he was the legitimate eldest grandson of the Ji clan's patriarch. Besides, after mother's death, grandfather had doted on him out of guilt. Expelling Jihe was unrealistic. Marrying him to Lu Yunfei was equally intolerable. After all, his disgraceful conduct affected my own prospects for marriage. TCH. Who would have thought the most vexing one would be Jihe? Having a brother like that, what an utter humiliation. Several days later, the day of the palace banquet arrived. Lin Jun and the rest were summoned, and Xin Yu's family had come as well. I sat with Wei, and soon enough, we spotted the four of them skulking together in a secluded corner of the garden. Wei and I exchanged a glance, then rose and walked directly toward Lu Yunfei. Cousin. At the sound of my voice, they all started as though struck, hastily moving to shield Lu Yunfei behind them like she were their last line of defense. Ji Yuan, this is the Imperial Palace. What are you trying to do? I narrowed my eyes, turning to Xun Yu, who stood off to the side. Young Master Shun, I said coldly, you know perfectly well this is the palace. Why raise your voice? Do you wish to disgrace your honored father? I gestured lightly for Lian Xiao to bring forward the jewelry I had prepared. Cousin, I began with a serene smile. I know I hurt you a few days ago. I must apologize. While I have been here in the palace, I have seen much and remembered much. I realized that, in the past, I harbored resentment toward you without cause. You suffered wrongs because of it. This is a token I selected with care. I hope you will accept it. I pressed the bracelet into Lu Yunfei's hand. Her eyes gleamed with greed as she turned it over and slipped it onto her wrist. At least you finally know your place. But don't think giving me a bracelet means you can buy my goodwill. Let me tell you about the matter of managing the household. I took her hand and patted the bracelet lightly. No rush. When this banquet is over, I will personally return with you to the Ji estate and hand everything over. The princess is calling me. I must go. Please, enjoy your conversation. I gave the four of them a long look and walked away unhurriedly. After chatting with a few noble ladies, a palace maid arrived to escort us all to the main hall. Wei patted my hand. Come, Ji Yuan. Oh, by the way, she added with deliberate innocence, where is your cousin? I don't see her anywhere. I glanced down slowly, feigning surprise. Oh, didn't I see her here just now, with my father and brother? Your Highness, perhaps you should go ahead. I'll look for her. This is her first time in the palace. She might wander off somewhere she shouldn't. No need. I'll come with you. Wei looked down at the other ladies. Why don't we all go together? The noble women naturally understood. Wei was inviting them to watch a spectacle. Of course, all agreed at once. Among them stood Xin Yu's mother, who met my gaze silently, her face pale. What surprised me more was that the crown prince, Dai Dingjia, soon joined us, bringing the nobleman along. He asked a few questions, then announced he would accompany us as well. I pressed my lips together and looked at Wei, who simply smiled and winked back at me. My heart settled. So Dai Dingjia already knew. Good. Now Xin Yu's family could see with their own eyes what sort of son they had raised. We deliberately circled the garden paths, making sure to give them time. Before we even reached the secluded corner, the obscene sounds were already drifting toward us. Several unmarried ladies blushed bright red, lowering their eyes in mortification. I hadn't spoken yet when Dai Dingjia gave a cold snort. In broad daylight, someone dares behave so shamelessly. I'd like to see who has the gall to commit such debauchery in the Imperial Palace. Moments later, we came upon the scene. The four of them, entirely naked, tangled together near an artificial rockery, unable to tear themselves apart. The lone woman among them was being ravished by 3 men at once, and showed no awareness they were being watched, moaning filth without shame. Cousin, ow, uncle, brother you. Her cries laid bare the identities of every man involved. A noble lady nearby gasped and turned to me in horror. Isn't that your cousin? And the men? All eyes turned to me. Dai Dingjia stepped forward, shielding me from view, and shielding others from looking further. Guards, he commanded. Separate them. It took considerable effort before the guards managed to drag the four of them apart. They finally seemed to regain their senses, scrambling to cover their nakedness in shame. Especially Lu Yunfei, who immediately tried to hide behind Xin Yu. I noticed out of the corner of my eye that Xun Yu's father looked utterly stricken, while his mother swayed as though she might faint. I gave Yue a look. She pinched my arm hard so my eyes welled with tears. Then I finally spoke, voice trembling. You, Cousin Yunfei, I treated you well. I took you into my home, fed you, cared for you as my own sister. And you lay with my father, my brother, and my betrothed. No wonder they were so insistent I hand the household keys to you. So eager to say I should step aside because I was about to be married. So this was the plan all along. You were the real family. I was only the outsider. Xinyu's face turned deathly white. He opened his mouth again and again, but couldn't form a single word. Jihe, on the other hand, showed no shame at all. He straightened, glaring at me defiantly. Yes, Ji Yuan, he spat. So what if you know? Did you think Yunfei was as old-fashioned as you? She's far more interesting than you'll ever be. His words sparked an immediate uproar among the watching nobles. Some young lady I didn't recognize, let out a cold laugh, her voice dripping contempt. Interesting. I'd say she's even filthier than a common whore. Lu Yunfei's face went paper white. She glared at me with naked hatred, unable to stand the scorn. Then, as though remembering something, she abruptly stumbled forward and threw herself to her knees before Dai Dingjia. Your Highness, the Crown Prince. She wailed, tears streaking her face. This wasn't my doing. I was framed. It was her, Ji Yuan. She was jealous that brother you liked me more than her. She set all this up to disgrace me. This bracelet. Lu Yunfei shrieked, clutching her wrist. This bracelet she gave me. Right after she handed it over, all this happened. There must be some aphrodisiac hidden inside. At her words, Xinyu suddenly looked up, his gaze fierce. Ji Yuan, you dared to set a trap to ruin me. We were engaged. You vile woman, I will never marry you. He had barely finished before his father strode forward and slapped him across the face. Unfilial son, the elder Shin thundered. You've done such shameful things to Yuan, and now you dare slander her. Hold your tongue. Lin Jun stood frozen, his eyes full of hate for me, but lacking the courage to say a word. Without any allies, he didn't even have the confidence to protest. Meanwhile, Lu Yunfei ignored them all, tears streaming down her face as she turned to Dai Dingjia, pitifully wailing. Your Highness, you must uphold justice for me. My chastity has been defiled. I am innocent. Dai Dingjia merely looked at her with disgust and kicked her aside. Someone, he barked. Bring the imperial physician, have him examine this bracelet. We'll see whether it contains any such substance. And as for young Master Shin's accusations, he sneered and gave Xinyu a scornful glance. You think Lady Ji, an accomplished, virtuous woman, would stoop to beg for a place in your family? There are countless men in this world who would gladly marry her. The elder Shin's face went pale, understanding the unspoken meaning. This engagement was finished. I stood silently, saying nothing. Now was not yet the time to speak. I would let Lu Yunfei nurture a little hope, before I crushed it completely. Soon, the imperial physician arrived. Dai Dingjia even had blankets brought to cover the four of them. The physician examined the bracelet carefully, then approached Dai Dingjia and bowed. Your Highness, this bracelet contains no trace of any aphrodisiac. I looked at Lu Yunfei. The hope in her eyes gradually dimmed, snuffed out entirely. Fearing he hadn't been clear, the physician added. I also checked their pulses carefully. There are no symptoms of any such drug. Dai Dingjia snorted. In other words, everything was done of their own free will. Yue couldn't help herself. She burst out laughing. And you dared accuse Ji Yuan. How shameless. Did you think she was like you, a cheap woman not fit to stand in proper company? I met Lu Yunfei's gaze and gave her a small, placid smile. There had never been anything special about that bracelet. It was an ordinary trinket. I had given it to her so she would suspect I had tampered with it, so that when she disgraced herself, she would grasp at it as an excuse. And when the truth was revealed, everyone would see clearly just how depraved and shameless they were. A proper drama always needed a final reveal. I dabbed my eyes delicately with my handkerchief and stepped to stand before Xinyu's mother, who had only just regained consciousness. Madam Shun, Uncle Shun, the engagement between your son and me was arranged by my late mother, who feared I would one day be bullied. She chose most carefully before settling on your family. Back then, it was understood that marriages are determined by the will of our parents, and I was prepared to honor that. But after today, I'm not afraid you'll laugh at me. When I was confined in my courtyard days ago, your son and my cousin came to my rooms together. My mother has passed. My father, even as a guest in our house, has committed unspeakable acts. My grandfather is far away on the frontier. So with your permission, I wish to dissolve this engagement. Your son is fine in many ways, but I have no good fortune to share his life. Madame Shin looked shamefacedly at her husband. At last, she bowed her head and nodded. She reached out and patted my hand. Yuan, you are a good girl. It is we who are unworthy of you. I smiled faintly without replying. Dai Dingzhe let out a disdainful snort, casting a cold look at Xinyu. The Shin family overreached themselves. I pressed my lips together to hide a smile and quietly stepped back beside Wei. One burden lifted. Now all that remained was to deal with the greatest trouble of all, Lu Yunfei. Before I could speak, Lu Yunfei brazenly stepped up to Madame Shun. Madam, she said, voice trembling but eyes gleaming with ambition. Since the engagement between Brother Yu and Ji Yuan has been annulled, why not take this chance to settle things properly? Brother Yu already promised me he would marry me. Why not confirm our engagement today? Her words left the crowd gaping in astonishment. I truly hadn't imagined she could be so shameless, to stand there after all she'd done and demand a marriage like some twisted claim of victory. As if to say, so what if I am debauched? Your son agreed to marry me anyway. Sure enough, Madame Shun began to shake violently with rage and fainted again. Lu Yunfei ran to Xunyu, clutching his sleeve desperately. Brother Yu, say something. Didn't you promise to marry me? Xunyu's expression turned stricken. He took an involuntary step back. He stepped forward and seized Lu Yunfei by the arm, snapping. Yunfei, can't you see? Xunyu is a coward. He never intended to marry you. You'd be better off becoming my wife. Lin Jun quickly interjected. No, I forbid it. I let out a cold laugh. What's wrong, father? Why object? Do you want to take her as your own concubine instead? But don't forget, you are only a guest in our house. You have no right to marry again. Yue gave a mocking chuckle and said sweetly, Ji Yuan, you really are too soft-hearted. If it were me, I'd simply have your father removed from the Ji estate altogether. Then he could marry as many concubines as he liked. Lin Jun went deathly pale. With a strangled cry, he sank to his knees before me. No, 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 Yuan, I didn't mean that. I always loved your mother deeply. Yes, Lin Jun suddenly screeched, pointing a shaking finger at Lu Yunfei. It was her. She seduced me. It was all her fault. How could I let a filthy creature like her marry my son? This must never happen. Lu Yunfei's expression twisted with rage. Clutching the blanket around her, she stormed over to Lin Jun and slapped him hard across the face. Liar. You're the one who took advantage of me. When my mother died, when I was kneeling before her coffin, you crawled onto my bed and forced yourself on me. You threatened me to keep quiet. You dragged me into the Ji estate, made me endure your contempt every day. You beast in human skin. You disgust me most of all, making me pretend to praise you in bed when you were nothing but a pathetic little needle. I spit on you. I stood there, lips twitching in speechless disdain. Quietly, I tugged at Yue's sleeve. I truly had no interest in hearing any more of their filth. Was Lu Yunfei pitiable? Listening to her, perhaps she was. But she was even more loathsome. Yue finally spoke, her voice cool. Royal brother, it's getting late. We should go to the main hall. As for this petty family drama, this princess has no wish to hear more. Guards, Dai Dingzhe ordered, take them all away. Lady Ji, this is your family's affair. Let us handle the rest. I thanked Dai Dingzhe quietly and cast one last look at the four wretches kneeling on the ground. This palace banquet, they would see none of it. A pity. It was Lu Yunfei's first time in the palace, after all. When the banquet ended, I returned to the Ji estate without delay. Xinyu's matter had been resolved. His parents had taken him away. I heard they had disowned their eldest son and placed all their hopes on the younger. Xinyu himself was exiled from the capital, sent back to the old ancestral manor. As for me, no matter how pitiful Lin Jun tried to act, I showed no hesitation in throwing him out of the Ji household. Lu Yunfei, I personally delivered her to a brothel. Cousin, I told her calmly, weren't you so eager to sell me to one? Since you love men so much, I think this is exactly where you belong. And Ji he, when he heard I'd sold Lu Yunfei to the brothel, He made a scene, but achieved nothing. After that, he simply began visiting her there every day, paying for her to serve him. The servants later reported to me that he'd even taken to paying her monthly expenses. In no time, he squandered all his funds and came knocking to demand his allowance. "Ji-yuan," he shouted. "Hand over next month's stipend." I looked up, lazily blowing over my tea. "Oh, brother, you haven't heard the news yet." Ji scowled. "What news? What does it matter? Hand over the silver first. Don't change the subject." I smiled serenely. A few days ago, the Crown Prince petitioned His Majesty, reminding him that grandfather is growing old and should begin grooming a worthy successor to command the armies. And of course, the candidate he recommended was you. The emperor agreed. "In 3 days, brother, you'll depart." Ji's face went utterly white. Then he exploded, pointing at me in fury. "This was you. You put the Crown Prince up to it. Don't think I don't see it. He's had designs on you for years. You sold Yunfei, drove father away, and now you want to get rid of me too. You think grandfather won't hold you accountable when he learns the truth." I gave a soft laugh. "I will explain everything to grandfather myself. And as for this appointment, I never asked the Crown Prince for it. In fact, I've been wondering how to be rid of you. His Highness simply solved my problem." No matter how he raged, 3 days later he was hauled onto horseback and marched out of the capital. I even sent a messenger to inform Lu Yunfei in the brothel. I heard she tried to flee that night, only for the madam to catch her and beat her so savagely she couldn't get out of bed. When all was done, I returned to the palace to thank Yue. Yue waved me off lightly. "There's no need for thanks between us. Besides, I can't pretend I'm entirely unselfish. You don't know, after he heard everything, my royal brother personally ordered me to help you however I could. He's more concerned about you than he's ever been about me. Say, Ji-yuan, now that your engagement to Shun Yu is dissolved, shouldn't you at least consider my brother? He's kept himself chaste all these years. He hasn't even taken a concubine." I flushed and looked away, only to see Dai Dingjia standing at the doorway, looking a little uneasy. During my days in the palace, he had often come to Yue's chambers. It wasn't that I hadn't known his feelings, but in my past life, I'd already been engaged, and I never once allowed myself to imagine any future with him. Looking back, perhaps my mother had rushed to arrange that engagement precisely because she feared I would one day enter the palace. After all, as the granddaughter of a great general, marrying into the royal family would have been expected. But after 2 lifetimes, I had grown weary of marriage itself, especially to a crown prince, a future emperor, whose heart could never belong to any one woman alone. Youthful affections could not last forever. I didn't know how to refuse him, and as I hesitated, he finally spoke. "Ji-yuan," Dai Dingjia said softly, "I am not your father or your brother. I am not Xinyu. My heart for you has never been a passing fancy. You don't have to burden yourself with guilt, or feel compelled to repay me with your hand. Everything I did because I wanted to. Whatever you choose, I will respect it." Not long after, grandfather returned to the capital. I told him everything, every sordid detail. I thought he would scold me, but he only sat in silence for a long time. "My Yuan," he murmured at last. "You have suffered." My lips quivered. A bitter ache welled up in my heart. But at least I still had grandfather. At least he was no beast in human skin. When he heard he had been exiled to the army, grandfather only snorted. Too merciful, he spat. If I'd come home sooner, I'd have skinned him alive and made him remember whose blood flows in his veins. But he's in was little better. Soon after, news came that he had died on the road to the frontier, his body left unburied. As for Lin Jun, life after being cast out was no easier. He scraped by on petty fraud until he fell into gambling. In the end, debt collectors beat him to death. Lu Yunfei, I heard she conceived soon after. The madam forced her to drink a bowl of safflower tea. She grew sick, contracted venereal disease, and was expelled from the brothel. No one knew where she went. Perhaps she didn't survive long. And I remained in the light. I embraced all the warmth this world could offer. And I lived a brilliant life. The end.